It's time to sip that coffee, get your mind right, and vibe with the queen herself. We're dishing out hot topics, wellness tips of the day, and things that make you go, Let's get this palace party started.
All right. Welcome, everybody. Good morning and welcome back. We are back. But let me just do a mic check. 1, 2, 3. Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Thank you, everybody, for pulling up. And for those of you that are tuned in from work, listen, we appreciate you being here, kind of sneaking off to the office, ducking aside, putting those earpods in or lowering the volume in the coffee room, in the break room. Maybe some of you on the East Coast are in your car having your sandwich saying, you know what, I'm about to tune into Queen Sheba just to get a final update on her thoughts, her personal perspective as a journalist being in the courtroom. So thank you, everybody. Happy Thursday to you. Happy Thursday to you. Listen, I had to brew myself a good old cup of coffee. You hear me say cup of coffee. I'm a Texas girl. So I say cup of coffee. Had to brew myself a cup of coffee and I had to take a 24-hour break, but we're back and we're going to talk all things Karmelo Anthony trial. I was there start to finish. And that's just what I do. Now, my initial approach with the trial is I just wanted to give you the back and forth that's going on or was occurring in the courtroom in real time. And there's so many different takeaways for me. But before I jump in and kind of give you the rundown, the final rundown, and then my personal thoughts, let me just remind you that we're all adults here. And I know we're all different and have different backgrounds and different ideologies about what we think, what we believe. But if you're the type of adult that's easily triggered by someone not agreeing with you or someone doesn't see eye to eye with what you believe or think, this may not be the right conversation for you. And I don't know how else to say it. It may not be the right conversation for you. Well, why am I saying that? I discovered throughout covering the trial that many of you have a propensity to hear what you want to hear or have a desire where you go around and you have this confirmation bias where you're looking for content creators, bloggers, journalists to say exactly what you want to hear. Okay. And there were some things that I gave you that were happening in real time in the courtroom. And some of you were saying, liar, liar. Nobody else is saying that. Of course they're not, because I was not personally handpicked by the judge. And if you've been following the case, then you should know that the judge handpicked 9 local media stations, media outlets specific to Collin County. They were considered legacy media. Okay, what does that mean? They're all going to report on the right side of the fence. What's the right side of the fence? These are people that are constituents in that county. It would make sense for them to say anything adverse against the county, against the DA, the state, the prosecutors. Okay. That's just what it is. If your boss handpicks you to go off on a company trip and to represent the company, let's just be fair. Your job is to represent the company. However, if I pay my way as an independent journalist and I wake up at 3 a.m., 2:30 a.m., and I got to go toe to toe with the public and get in line, my job is to give you exactly what's happening there in that courtroom, whether you like it or not. And that's what I do. So for those of you that are new around these pods, grow up. I'm not an echo chamber. I told you what was happening. I told you what was going down. And now you know. Now you know. Wow. He did say crazy weather. Huh. He did ask to sit down. But because nobody else was saying it, the reality Grizzly said, I just got my Starbucks. Listen. But because nobody else was saying it, you deemed it not true. And I don't do the back and forth. I don't feel a need to qualify myself. You take what you need and you discard the rest. And with that being said, welcome everybody. We're just going to jump right into it. We're going to jump right into it. Now, what I did not give you on the final day, because it was like a 19, 20-hour day, okay? What I did not give you was the closing arguments. I just couldn't do it, you guys. I gave you snippets, but let me just give you the closing arguments, and then we're going to get really personal regarding my perspective, my opinion. All of you have been waiting. What's your opinion? What's your perspective? Not too soon. Not too soon. And let me say this too. I want to say this. Um, you know what? I'll hold it. I'll hold it. The closing arguments, each side was allotted 35 minutes. We're talking the state and the defense teams. Typically, when I attend trials, whether it's the Diddy trial, the David trial, Karmelo Anthony, whatever trial, whether I'm covering like Anna Kepner, Shanquilla Robinson, I marvel at the brilliance of the defense and of the state. I enter the courtroom as a journalist, not trying to or attempting to attach myself to either side. For me, it's like a tennis match or a ping pong match. I'm just watching and marveling at the best of the best, whether it's the prosecutor, the government in the federal case, or the defense team. And listen, if they score a point, I'm going to say the defense did a hell of a job today. If the state did a great job in that moment, I'm going to say the state is in there kicking ass. Oh, I'm worried about the defense. That's how my coverage is. Okay. So I just want to give you a little bit of background for those of you that are new. So each side received 35 minutes to present their closing arguments. And I want to back this thing up all the way to June 1st. That was the first day of the opening. That was the first day of the trial where they begin jury selections. Judge Roach made it very clear on June 1st, I want to get this thing done. Keep that in mind, because some of you are saying this is the fastest murder trial I've seen. It was fast. It was quick. But it goes back to what he said day one. I want to get this thing done. When they were engaging in the jury selections, one juror said, what if we get back there and we just can't decide and we can't make a decision? He responded, you're not going to do that in my courtroom. Where am I going with this? I wonder, leading with a question mark, if the jurors felt pressured to get that thing done. I also wonder if the jurors felt pressure because he made it very clear as they begin to deliberate. If you're not done, you will be sequestered. If you're not done by 6 p.m. or if you haven't reached a verdict by 6 p.m., you will be sequestered. And the televisions and the phones and the hotels have already been removed. That's a lot of pressure, if you ask me. And my takeaway would be as a juror is the expectation is to hopefully wrap up by today, because who wants to be in a barren hotel room with no television in 2026, no phone in 2026, sequestered? As they begin closing arguments, the state gave the floor to the defense. But prior to that, the judge addressed the jury with jury instructions, and he said, you don't have to memorize what I'm saying. You will receive a written version of this in the back. And he started off with all persons are presumed innocent unless proven beyond a reasonable, unless a proved act has occurred. Keep in mind, the defense doesn't have to present evidence to prove their innocence. That burden sits with the prosecution. He said the state has to prove beyond all reasonable doubt that Karmelo Anthony did commit murder. What does that mean? Bodily injury and or physical pain with a deadly weapon, serious bodily injury that's caused by an individual. He goes on to read the definition of murder, and this is just short, brief, cliff notes. Murder is an act that intentionally or that intentionally or unintentionally causes an individual to lose their life. Then he goes on to read the definition of manslaughter. That's a person that's reckless in regard to their conduct that causes another person to lose their life. Like I said, I'm just giving you the Cliff Note version. If you consider murder, I also want you to consider if Karmelo Anthony acted in self-defense. Was he justified in using deadly force? Did he give a warning? Did he have a right to be present? Was he engaged in criminal activity? If you, more than one, they appear to him. Hold on, I'm looking. And he goes on to say, if you have any reasonable doubt, then, you will find him not guilty. And then he goes on to say, define deadly force. Deadly force is to, I'm not going to read that because my notes are all over the place. He instructed the jury that you cannot use the lack of testimony against Karmelo Anthony. Don't talk about it. Don't speak on it. Don't question why he did not testify. You cannot take that bias to the deliberation room. Okay, so he instructed them that. The state waived their right to opening and they passed the floor to the defense. Let me go back. There's 3 charges that the jury, that Karmelo Anthony was facing. First-degree murder. No, there's 3 charges. I'm sorry. We were looking at manslaughter, first-degree murder, or self-defense, if I'm correct. The judge said, the defense said, no person may be convicted unless each of you agree to beyond a reasonable doubt. The defense starts with, what is self-defense? The closing statements were led by Mike Howard. And he starts off by saying, the government wants to make you believe that this case is about number 1, murder. That Karmelo Anthony intentionally murdered Austin Metcalf. He says, I would like to call your attention to a few things. Number 1, everyone that testified adhered to the culture of the tents. It's okay. Most kids visit other tents between 30 seconds to 10 minutes. He said, but not memorial. Not memorial. He said, you've heard from witnesses, coaches from other schools in Frisco. And they've testified, yes, it's normal for kids to come to our tents, minimum 30 seconds, max to 10 minutes. He said also, number 2, we know it was raining that day. I'm asking you to use common sense. Was it reasonable for Karmelo Anthony to think, geez, let me get out of this rain. I got to get out of this rain. Was that a reasonable act for him to duck away under a tent? Number 3, not only did he duck away under the tent, he said, crazy weather, huh? As he's making conversation with another kid, and he named the child. Number 2, we know it was raining because when you reviewed the video surveillance that was presented by the forensic digital analysts, we could see Karmelo Anthony slip and fall when he was retreating from the altercation, which proves there was weather that day. Where is he going with this? There's 2 reasons Karmelo Anthony entered that tent. Number 1 is because it was raining. And number 2, he was summoned over there by his friend. He said, you also had a witness to testify that we had no problem with him being under the tent while it was raining. Number 5, he says another witness testified that Karmelo Anthony, he spoke, he said hello to everybody, and he even dapped up his friend. I would like to remind you why Karmelo Anthony started under that tent. According to a Memorial High School student that was a state's witness, I'm playing like I'm the defense, everybody. Eddie said, "Hey, come over here." He said everything was fine. They were talking, they were just being kids. He's been under the memorial tent before until Hunter Metcalf and Austin Metcalf confronted Karmelo Anthony. He said it's reasonable for Karmelo to hesitate to leave because of the rain. Now, this is what we're going to do. Because what you're not going to do, because I'm done. I've left the courthouse and we can get real jiggy. So, what you're not going to do is come under here and antagonize me under the instruction of a meth head, under the instruction of a woman that you worship. So, this is what we're about to do because you're going to mind your fucking manners over here today. Now, I allowed you racists, I allowed you Neanderthals to do the most. And I overlooked it because I was in professional mode that day. But we will not continue that type of behavior over here. And as a matter of fact, if you are here because Sarah sent you, she failed you because she took $30,000 from you and didn't give you in-depth notes from both sides. So what I'm about to do is I'm about to get you up out of here. There you go. You're gone. You're gone. Let's continue. No, they control. They're out of here. You'll never be able to comment on my channel again, ever, in your natural born life until the day you die. Good day. Because we're not going to be disrespectful. You're going to find your manners. Okay. So then he goes on to say, Karmelo has been there before. He's been under that tent before. It's not his first time. So he was fine for several minutes. There was no altercation. There was no problem. You heard people testify, other students testify. We were okay with it while it was raining until he was approached, confronted by Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf. He said it's reasonable for Karmelo to hesitate because of the rain. He said it was even testified by a memorial student that Karmelo said, "What's your problem? Nobody's tripping but y'all." The students told you. Hunter got mad. Austin Metcalf got more mad. Hunter Metcalf escalated. Karmelo Anthony was afraid to leave at this time. They testified that he just came into the tent, sat down. They asked him to leave. And according to them, he said, "Touch me and see what happens." He said, but he was surrounded by the big boys, the linebacker. You had Hunter Metcalf. You had Austin Metcalf. You had somebody in the back of him and somebody on the side of him. And the entire time he remained seated. He was afraid. He never stood up. He was afraid. Y'all remove his comment. Oh, okay. Got it. Okay. Y'all, hold on. Y'all throwing me off. Y'all throwing me off. Okay. Here we go. All right. So he stays seated because he was afraid. Metcalf, and what he's insinuating in that moment is, where was he going to go? Because the Metcalf boys didn't give him room to leave. They continued to stand over him. So when you're asking somebody to leave, what he's insinuating is, would you not make room for him to get up to leave? But that's not what happened. They're telling you they're asking him to leave, which they did, but there was nowhere to go. He continues on to say, Memorial coach wasn't there. Other coaches were. How come Hunter Metcalf and Austin Metcalf didn't go get another coach to help out? Does Karmelo Anthony leave, turn his back on him, and wait until they hurt him bad? Because the law says you don't have to wait to use deadly force if you have a reasonable belief that you're going to be harmed by one or more individuals. He said these students testified that it was one-on-one. He said it wasn't one-on-one. We had 130 pounds versus 213 pounds times 2. That's not one-on-one. That's 2 by 2. He said, keep in mind that the kids that testified, they testified in Austin Metcalf's favor because he's their friend. He's their brother. He's their leader. He's their captain of the football team. Some of them are telling the truth. There was various versions that you've heard, but you only heard general versions. You didn't hear all of the details. Some said he touched him. Some said he pushed him. Some said it was a light shove. Some said he hit him. He said, and you had one that said he hit him as like a linebacker would tackle somebody. And then you said they told you after the altercation that Karmelo Anthony ran. He says he didn't run and go home. He didn't leave the stadium. Folks, he ran to a coach. Karmelo Anthony could have left, but he headed on the field and he ran to a coach. You heard that Karmelo was remorseful. He was distraught. The words that were used to describe him after the altercation was crying, emotional, hysterical. The officer said he was emotional. All have testified that his emotions were genuine. Everyone except Coach Starr. And Coach Starr said he was hysterical. You know why? Because Coach Starr starts to get into his face and yell at him. So Karmelo sought out Coach Hooper, a safe coach. And Coach Hooper testified to you all, quote, I turned him over to Centennial, unquote. I'm sorry, quote, I turned him over to Centennial because they know him, unquote. He said, let's go back to Starr. He's the only one that testified differently than the other coaches. Starr aggressively approached Karmelo. He hopped the fence and he said, he yelled at him. He's in his face. What did you do? What did you do? Whereas you have Coach Hooper, who puts his arm around Karmelo and he says, son, if that young man dies, your life will change forever. To which Karmelo responded, he's not going to die. And Coach Hooper then repeats, son, if that young man dies, your life will change forever. He said Karmelo's response to Coach Hooper shows there was no intent to kill Austin Metcalf that day. He says Coach Hooper testified under oath that Karmelo kept asking, is he okay? Will he be okay? And I want to focus on his state of mind. Does that sound intentional or does that sound unintentional? He says, now everybody would like you to believe that Karmelo came to that tent, sat down, they asked him politely to leave, and he says, touch me and see what happens. He said, that is not what happened. Karmelo was summoned over there. And the second reason is he stayed is because it was raining. He said, you heard Austin's friends testify that Austin told him, if you don't move, I'm going to beat your bitch ass. Then he goes on to say, Texas law is clear about knives. 5.5 inches or below does not violate the law. Even a teen, even if a teenager is carrying that knife. Now, you may not like it, but it's not against the law. It is against school policy, but it is not against the law. Even if it violates school policy, to which Karmelo Anthony was not suspended. He goes back to self-defense and he walks him through what Texas law says about self-defense. He says the law does not require you to wait until you are hit, until you are hurt. If you believe beyond a reasonable doubt that you're about to be harmed, according to the defense, Texas law doesn't require you to wait until you are severely injured. So he poses the question, was Karmelo supposed to just sit there and take it and wait and allow it to happen, not knowing the severity of the injuries that he would be dealt by those boys in the tent? He said, based on testimony, he's surrounded by these boys. You heard the testimony. They said we, and they named off the name. He said the law understands that there's no way that you would be able to predict what's about to happen. The law does not require you to know what's about to happen to you. He said, I would like to shift to motive. Let's talk about motive. The state still hasn't presented a motive or giving you a motive explaining why Karmelo Anthony would want to harm Austin Metcalf, other than he was in danger, folks. The state has failed to establish a motive. He says, they have no background, Austin and Karmelo. He goes on. He says, now I would like to focus on the medical examiner's report. According to the medical examiner who testified under oath as a medical expert, she said the wound was a lateral tilt up. It wasn't vertical. It was not horizontal. The direction of the wound was a lateral tilt up. And then he demonstrates aiming a knife. He goes, this is intentional. And he kind of thrusts the knife out horizontally. And then he said, this is intentional. And he kind of thrusts the knife down. If someone wants to kill you, according to the medical examiner, based on stab wounds she's seen, typically they're like this or they're like that. And he demonstrates that physically, right? In the courtroom to the jurors. He said, listen, the angle of the wound is evidence that Karmelo Anthony had no real intention to harm, but he was placed in a position to defend himself if you go by the expert account of the tilt of the wound. He said, if you can recall the testimony of Memorial Kids, Eddie called. Hold on, give me 1 second. Eddie called Karmelo over. When we're talking motive, if Karmelo intentionally wanted to, what he's trying to say is if Karmelo intentionally wanted to kill Austin Metcalf, then Eddie calling him over is a problem. because otherwise Karmelo would not have been in that tent when we're talking intent. He said, so imagine Karmelo's state of mind. The guy that you think is your friend calls you over. Multiple people, after a while, get up to attack you. Karmelo is afraid. And even when Austin Metcalf stood up over him, Karmelo Anthony did not assume an aggressive position. He remained seated the entire time. Karmelo Anthony warned Austin Metcalf to not put his hands on him. And Austin Metcalf proceeded to escalate an attack. He said, now those kids are kids. They don't know the law, but you know the law. And it is your job to decide as a jury. And even though they all agree as kids that what Karmelo Anthony did was not self-defense, it's not really fair to ask friends of the deceased to determine if Karmelo committed a crime, because they're going to be biased. All right? So they passed the floor to the state. Let's go to the state. So the state takes the floor, and it's led by Bill Worski. And Bill has this booming voice, and he says, do not let them turn a threat into a benign warning. Karmelo Anthony threatened Austin Metcalf. He threatened him. So don't you let them get up and turn a threat into this passive, benign warning. Because you know what? If you're scared, you heard the defense say that a coach was in proximity. If Karmelo was scared, how come he didn't yell for help? And don't let them try to take the orientation of the knife wound and call this self-defense. That is ludicrous. He says, motive? I don't know. The reasons are unknown. But what I want you to focus on is the mindset. I want you to focus on the mindset of Karmelo Anthony. And he took the knife to the track, and it was his little secret. He had a knife, and because he had a knife, he's always going to come out on top, because only he knows that he has a knife. And it boils down to this, folks. You don't get to meet a shove with a stab, especially if you provoke the action. Let's talk about the relevant facts. Let's talk about the relevant law. The word is provoke. You've heard it over and over and over. Provoke. You can't provoke your way into using deadly force. When Austin just simply shoved you. So then he goes back and he repeats, and I made a note. Well, he said, I'm going to rely on my opening statements. And if you've been following me, I've already covered his opening statements. When he said, Karmelo Anthony took a knife and he thrust it into the heart of Austin Metcalf. That's what the evidence proves. And he used the phrase, Karmelo Anthony went from 0 to 100. How come he just didn't leave? He could have retreated. He said, the video tells a story. It's a series of snapshots that the defense wants to attack, but the video tells you the story. And the video was supported by eyewitness. They corroborated Karmelo Anthony's actions. He said, and you can't get to manslaughter unless you acquit him unanimously of murder. You can't even consider manslaughter unless you all agree that he's not guilty of murder. And the defense wants to talk self-defense. You don't get to meet a shove with a stab. You can't provoke an encounter and then use deadly force. And all of these witnesses have said Karmelo Anthony provoked Austin Metcalf. And if you find that Karmelo Anthony provoked, then self-defense is off the table. It must come off the table. He said, let's talk proportionality. Force proportionality. You can't meet a shove with a deadly stab. It has to be in proportion to the act committed against you. Yeah, they're talking about the size differentiation, but that's not going to work in this case. You can't kill because somebody's bigger than you. And then he moved on from that very quickly, and he goes on into a reasonable doubt. And I put, quote, ordinary / prudent. He says an ordinary, prudent, reasonable person. When you consider reasonable doubt, would you or me, he says, we're talking ordinary, prudent, reasonable people, would you have stabbed Austin Metcalf? So that's what it means beyond a reasonable doubt, what an ordinary, prudent, reasonable person would have done. What would be ordinary to do in this case? And then I made a small note. And I just want to give you my note. My note says, the problem is you have to think like a child. I get what he's saying as adults, and he's speaking to the jury, but I made a small note. The problem is you have to think like a child. So anywho, he shifts to self-defense. He says self-defense must be immediately necessary. In order to get this as self-defense, was it immediately necessary for Karmelo Anthony to stab Austin Metcalf? He said, you have video evidence. And then he said, Karmelo Anthony was not surrounded. And there were no defensive wounds from Austin Metcalf. You know why? Because he didn't see it coming. Let's focus on his actions after murder. What was his actions after the murder? Because that is indicative of the mindset. Guilty. He said his mindset after the murder. You heard people say, he touched me, he touched me. If he was really surrounded, why didn't he yell for help? So don't buy into his lie. Go back to the police reports. Go back to Karmelo's words. He said, he touched me, not they touched me. He said witnesses, their testimonies were not consistent. No, they were not. But they all said that Karmelo was in the wrong and that Karmelo committed murder. He says, listen, I'm telling you, Karmelo Anthony had it in his mind, focus on his mindset, what he was going to do. They told you, the witnesses told you that Austin Metcalf was not angry. He was frustrated, and he likely pushed Karmelo. And I made a note, and I said, oh, the state painted Austin Metcalf as a gentle giant. Now, that's it. That wraps up closing arguments by both the state and the defense. And that's how I give what's happening in the courtroom. And just because another side that's handpicked or another content creator or independent journalist that you like decides not to give it to you, don't you ever come over here and accuse me of lying.
I will pray for you, but if you get on my nerve, I will cuss you smooth out. My mouth ain't under control yet, and I can throw these hands. And let me tell you something, if I get my hands on you, I promise you, you're going to know you've been in a fight. But I'm trying not to go there because I'm in transition.
Now, we choose to share what we want. It just so happens I choose to share both sides, period. Then they go on to the verdict, right? So we're out. That was closing arguments, both sides. We're hanging out. Things are getting crazy at the courtroom. You see people I'm in the parking lot. I'm in my car. Y'all, by this time, I am hungry, but I don't want to leave the campus. So I had like Uber Eats deliver me some food. I was nervous. It was just, I didn't know what to expect. Now, after the closing arguments, I thought that Mike Howard did a really good job. I've been waiting for him to show up this entire trial because, like I said, I marvel at the brilliance. Typically, when I attend court cases, I marvel at the brilliance of both the state, the government, and the defense team. And I didn't see it from Mike Howard. And at one point, I'm like, you going to play ball? This is what I'm thinking in my head, right? Just as a defense attorney, let's go. Play ball. You playing or what? What you doing? But in the closing arguments, I felt he did a really good job of being a technical expert on what the law is versus what the law is not. So the jury comes back, and according to the verdict, they didn't feel the same because they found, well, let me tell you about the aura. Whew, it was heavy law enforcement. Heavy. The silence was deafening. It was so loud and thick. People were already crying. Everybody was waiting around. They escorted the families in. And I put the aura as eerie, heavy, a heavy wave of anticipation. And I made a personal note. I said, no matter what, a child is lost when you think about both families. That was my personal note. This is not a win. This is a lose on every side. If you look at it from the perspective of a parent, back away from the law, both parents have lost. And I made a note. I said, Karmelo Anthony took a life. Austin Metcalf is gone. And Karmelo Anthony, his life is in the hands of the jury. So when I walk in and we take a seat, I immediately begin to cry very quietly because I see the defense team and he's comforting and rubbing Karmelo Anthony. And I almost lost it because this is real. That's why it's important to stay neutral, to see both sides when you come in. It's real. I'm witnessing raw emotion from the Metcalfs. I'm witnessing raw emotion from the defendant, who is Karmelo Anthony. And I see this kid shaking and crying and sobbing, and his mother can't touch him and his father can't touch him. But then you have the same situation with the Metcalfs. They can't touch Austin. They can't console him. And that's why I said it's a lose-lose situation, right? And his lawyer is just trying to get him to calm down. Karmelo Anthony's head is bowed down. You can see his shoulders visibly shaking. And I think Jeff Metcalf not testified to that, but in his news conference, he said, listen, I'm a human being. The sorrow was deep in that courtroom. And the Judge Roach came in, all rise. We all rose. We sat down. He made it very clear that there will be no emotional outburst in his courtroom. He said, you can get emotional, but you can't get emotional here. I will not tolerate it in my courtroom. Then he talks about they escort the jury in. They're escorted in by the bailiff. And the jury takes their seats. Immediately, I was able to identify who the foreman of the jury was. I found it interesting that Judge Roach skipped a lot of steps that I've seen happen in federal court. Typically, the person would stand, is it true that you've been selected as foreman of the jury? Yes or no, sir, or form, whatever. He didn't do any of that. So the gentleman that was foreman of the jury was actually seated on the first row to the far left, but typically his seat would be on the last row. I'm sorry, he was seated on the first row to the far right. Typically, his seat would be on the last row up to the far left, closer to the Metcalf family. I'm trying to tell you who. Okay, the gentleman that was the foreman of the jury. Do you remember I told you there was a young blonde kid there who looked like he could be maybe 19? They got rid of that kid. That kid was not, they moved him to an alternate. So the foreman was initially seated next to that kid. The judge says, we've been made aware that you as a jury have reached a verdict. Is that correct? That's correct. The foreman hands the bailiff the verdict on a sheet of paper. And I wrote, it was silence. It was tense. And I kept writing to keep from crying. And as I looked up, as he's handing the piece of paper to the bailiff, before they read it, I wrote down guilty. Why would you do that? Well, I saw when he handed the paper to the bailiff, he turned all the way to the right and looked down that row at the Metcalf family. And I just wrote real quick, guilty. I saw the foreman look at the Metcalfs. Then I started to say, I think everybody here knows each other in some way by proximity, whether it's adjacent, directly or indirectly. I just wrote guilty. I didn't need to hear it. I knew in that moment, just based on my instinct and just my years of living. Karmelo Anthony was found guilty of murder. Karmelo was immediately taken into custody. I think the defense asked for a moment and the judge said, this is different now. A verdict has been reached. So the judge did give a long recess, I think, for the defense to console Karmelo. I wrote, 2 lives were lost, and I feel sick to my stomach. Karmelo was then brought back in after a while, and I didn't see anyone gloating. I looked around. I didn't see anybody gloating. I didn't see the Metcalfs gloating. I didn't see anybody gloating. I didn't see any smirks or any of that. This was a very, very, very heavy, sad thing. Now, let me give you the makeup of the final jurors. Nobody knew the makeup of the final jurors because we didn't know who the alternates were versus who the 12 would be. The final makeup was 8 women and 4 men, 3 white men, 5 white women, 2 Asian women, 1 Indian woman, and the man that I call Grumpy, who looks to be Middle Eastern. I made a note. I put, the foreman is cold-hearted. That's my personal note, okay? That's my personal note. So they come back. There's hours for the punishment phase. And I thought, oh my God, we waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited and waited. We didn't get the punishment until like after 6 p.m., close to 7, I do believe. And they came back. And as most of you know, the punishment verdict was 35 years for Karmelo Anthony. Now, someone pointed out, so there was a lot of crying, lots of crying. Someone pointed out that that's the combination of Karmelo's age and Austin's age, 35. And Karmelo would have to do half of that before he's eligible for parole, which would be the age that Austin died. I want to know who came up with that formula. Wouldn't that be interesting to know who came up with that formula in the deliberation room? How do we get to 35? They were both 17 at the time, correct? Or close to it, right? Plus, you know, I know it's 35, but that's what someone explained in my comments. Now, can I get into my personal opinion? Let me go back to my notes. All right. I want to go back to the foreman of the jury. The reason why I wrote he was cold-hearted, he was one of the ones that I knew. I was like, that's a vote against Karmelo. You can just kind of tell if you do this all the time. But that's not why I wrote he was cold. The reason why I wrote he was cold-hearted is because when Karmelo, the defense called one witness after the verdict was announced, which was Karmelo's mother. It was just the weirdest flow of events. There was no break, no time for people to catch their breath. It was very, very cold-hearted. The steps that they took, it just felt cold-hearted. In most cases, you have a second, they let people catch their breath. They put her on the stand sobbing. So when people are saying, when you're reading the headline, she's begging for his life, Judge Roach didn't even give the lady 90 seconds to compose herself after the verdict. I mean, he's just moving. And I found that from a perspective of a leader, the authority in the courtroom, to be a bit cold. It felt personal to me. If you watch different court cases, there is levels of humanity that judges can show if they want. We're not talking about guilty versus not guilty. We're talking about the pace and the cadence and just allowing everyone to take a deep breath. He didn't give her that. So that's why you see what you see in the headlines and she's crying and sobbing. I mean, literally, Guilty. Call your first witness. And I was like, damn, wow. Okay. And I wrote that the juror was cold because as she was talking or attempting to talk and what do you call it? Compose herself, the juror did not look at her. The foreman wouldn't look at her. And that's when I said, he's cold hearted. He has to know somebody. This is personal for him because the entire time you've been engaged until she takes the stand. So that leads me to believe, and I have to rely on my psychology background. This may have been personal for him. Maybe he was more engaged in the case than he admitted under oath. Maybe he was more upset about it than he admitted during jury selections because he refused to look at her. Okay. And that's why it's important to have unbiased reporting to give you both sides, even if you don't like it. Now I want to go back to my opinion on the closing arguments. Initially, I thought Karmelo Anthony would be found not guilty or either guilty of manslaughter because the instructions to the jury during jury selections and also when the judge gave the instructions before deliberation is consider the law, consider the law, consider the law. So if you're listening to the law and for the law, the defense did a really good job of explaining the law in their closing statements. The state touched on the law, but they didn't break it down. Give me 1 second, y'all. Give me 1 second. Hold on. But they didn't break it down. And for me, that exuded a level of confidence that I would have deemed risky, right? If I were a juror. And I felt like they the same way they opened, they closed with the high energy, high intensity, confident, so confident, they didn't really kind of dance around and hang around the law. There was a lot of bravado, but it worked because the verdict was guilty. So that's why I thought, well, if the jurors are listening and if they receive the instruction and if they're listening to both sides about the law, okay, and they don't bring a personal bias into the deliberation room as the judge has instructed, that should generate some really good dialogue. When we think of it, so that was my opinion on the closing statements. Let's go back to the makeup of the final jury selection. 8 women, 4 men, 5 white women, 3 white men, 2 Asian women, 1 Indian lady, 1 what I perceive to be maybe Middle Eastern man. And then when I start to look at the psychology of why would you select 2 Asian women, 2 Indian women, it's their culture to be submissive. That was brilliant. Brilliant play on the behalf of the state. Why? Because it looks to be fair. But then you have to get into the cultural dynamics and the cultural practices. And that's why people come over here and listen to my commentary, because we break it down from all angles. And you look at the cultural dynamics, it's brilliant. Hey, they can't say it's an all-white jury. We have 2 Indian women. 2 Asian women, 1 Indian lady, 1 perceived to be Middle Eastern man. Now, I will tell you, initially there were 2 Indian women, but one of them, her skin tone was really, really dark like my skin. They got rid of the darker Indian woman and they kept the older, lighter Indian woman, the one that will wear the hijab, the covering on the head. I hope I'm saying it correctly. But if you think of the cultural dynamics, those women tend to be extremely submissive and they're going to probably more likely follow the lead of the men in the room. And when you have 3 white men and 1 Middle Eastern man, it's a brilliant selection because you can silence the noise of the public backlash, the outrage, and say it's all white. You can say, no, it's not. I have 2 Asians, 3 Indians, 2, that's 5. No, 8. Yeah, yeah. So, but it's the underbelly of it, the deeper understanding. See, these aren't dummies that are prosecutors. They're not dumb. They understand the cultural traditions. And unfortunately, in this case, the prosecution in the state outsmarted the defense because you have to take everything into consideration. The optics, the perceived pushback on perceived biases. So if I put the right people in the right seats, these people, hijab, thank you. The right people, no, the right people, those people can't say it's all white because it wasn't an all white jury. So I wanted to, I'm just giving y'all the technical underplay of strategy, even when it's biased. That's why you have to sit back and understand that it's a game of chess and not checkers. And you can never allow your opponent to outthink you. The defense was playing checkers. The state played chess. I don't know what the hell the defense was thinking. I don't. There were times I was like, did you come to defend or did you get paid? That's my personal opinion. Are you compromised? What are you doing? How come you didn't object to that? How come you didn't say, wait a minute, you said that you asked Karmelo to leave. How come you didn't let him leave? Where are you going to go? There was 4 boys surrounding him. One boy testified that Karmelo not Karmelo, I'm sorry. So let me start all over. The defense, in my opinion, should have honed in on the Metcalf boys and the other boys under the tent refusal to back down. They allowed Karmelo Anthony to be responsible for the actions of those other individuals under the tent. This is my personal opinion. How is it that Karmelo is responsible for Austin? The state kept saying when they were directing their questions at the witness on direct. So he invited Austin to hit him, correct? Yes, sir. He said, hit me, touch me, right? Yes, sir. How come the defense didn't attack that? How come the defense didn't attack the fact that the Metcalfs did not stand down? They stood over him. And even though people are saying, well, we told him to leave, you didn't let him leave. You didn't let him leave because if I'm seated, and I just, for the life of me, I'm like, how come you didn't walk that thing like a dog? He can't go. You got somebody behind him, you and your brother in front of him, and you got another one on the side of him. Leave and go where? Because you're already over him. We know it's on and popping. It's still, as soon as he stands up, I would have tore that up as a defense, but I'm not a defense. So that threw me for a loop. Right? Because if you're not the aggressor and you want someone to leave, should you not make way for them to leave? Is there a reason Austin didn't stand down? He couldn't leave. Number one, we're going to get into the facts that were not presented. It was going to be a fight one way or the other. Let's talk about that before we get to having to use a knife to defend himself. It was going to be a fight one way or the other. One person testified that Austin hit Karmelo so hard, knocked him up out his seat. That is a fact. He did, because I did speak with someone off the record. Now, initially, when you all said, Queen Sheba, talk about the facts in the case, is it a fact that they jumped him in the tent? And I said, no, it has not been presented in the court yet, right? That's how we're going into the courtroom. But the defense presented it in his closing argument. And I'm like, how come you didn't really get into this? And I want to talk about something else. Karmelo did not say, touch me and see what happens. That is what the state told us that Karmelo said. And that's why I'm torn about, damn, if he was going to get 35 years, he probably should have testified. He probably should have testified. They said his account of everything that has happened to him has never changed. He did not say, listen to me, write it down. He did not say, touch me and see what happens. What he said is, as long as you don't put your hands on me, we're good. The state presented it as touch me and see what happens. He continued to say, as long as you don't put your hands on me, we good. That's what happened. Those are the words he said when Austin said, I'm going to beat your bitch ass. As long as you don't put your hands on me, we good. Austin Metcalf punched first Karmelo Anthony in his shoulder. Why is that important? It was not presented by the defense. I have no idea what the hell the defense was doing. He punched him in the shoulder hard first. Why is this important? That shoulder. Did you hear him say, was it a light? Have y'all followed the questions? Was it a light hit on the shoulder? You know why they're asking? Was it life, a gentle shove? Because that was his injured shoulder. Karmelo Anthony couldn't finish playing football because he injured his shoulder. And up to one point, he had to wear it in a sling. How come the defense didn't present that? I have no idea, you guys, but that's a fact. They didn't present it, number one. So when the first blow was to that injured shoulder, I'm just giving you, take what you need and discard the rest. Number two, February 14th, 2024, Karmelo Anthony suffered a severe seizure. He has epilepsy, and he hit his head so hard he had to be hospitalized. Where are we going with this? He was scared to death in that tent. He was scared of standing up. He was scared they were going to knock him out and do that. He was scared of having a seizure. And then he got punched in the shoulder first. And let me tell you, the second blow was a linebacker blow. Austin whacked the crap out of him, knocked him up out of his seat. That was the violent blow where you could see his body move in that surveillance camera. When Austin Metcalf was stabbed, he had Karmelo Anthony in a headlock, in a chokehold. And that's the part the defense did not present. I have no idea why. Karmelo Anthony was in a chokehold. And if you go back and look at the original arrest photos, you could see the welts and the abrasions on his neck from being in a chokehold. And when the medical examiner testified to the upward tilt of the knife, that's how he was stabbed, upwardly, when he was in that chokehold. One student testified, the last one, I can't say his name, the last one that took the stand on the behalf of I take that back. He took the stand, the defense called him as a witness. He didn't want to be there. You can look at the transcripts. The one that did not want to be there, that dodged the calls, he and his parents, he testified he tried to stop Austin Metcalf, but Austin was so strong, he knocked him back. So I'm going to give you the facts. The facts of the matter, it was not as simple as, hey, can you leave? Touch me and see what happens. It was a fight under that tent. And it was not presented in the courtroom. I don't know why the defense did not pull out those details. I have no idea. I have no idea why they would not say that. I mean, you said all they did was lie. I mean, the state said that. The state said that the testimonies were inconsistent. The state's witnesses were inconsistent. Yes, that's lying. That's omitting the truth. Well, here's the thing that they did a really good job. I'm prepping the kids. Because when the kids didn't want to paint Austin Metcalf in a negative light, they would say, I don't recall, I don't remember, in order to not commit perjury under oath. That was not a, hey, this guy's over here starting trouble. We asked him to leave, touch me and see what happens. I want to say something. 2 lives were lost. 1 life is lost. Austin Metcalf lost his life that day. Karmelo has lost his life to the system. Parents, have a talk with your kids. Talk to your kids. I kept thinking about before every day I would give you what was happening that day, not my opinion. Because in order for me to formulate an opinion, I need everything. And then we got to fill in. Each side's going to give you what they want you to have. Then you got to fill in the gaps. That's just the way it is. And the first day of the trial, when the official testimony began, the state testified that Austin was asked to step up by Coach Starr and be a leader. And that's the reason he was insistent on getting Karmelo out that tent. You failed him, Coach Starr. You failed him, Jeff Metcalf. Let me tell you why. Coach Starr, you are equally to blame because he's still a kid. You don't ask a kid to step up and hold it down with little to no instructions, because he stepped up and he held it down and he lost his life. You were negligent in your instructions. And I said what the fuck I said. You were negligent. And if I were the parents, I would sue the pants off of you. You put him in a position to be aggressive. Let's talk about it. Because what I'm told is you're aggressive. Off record, your coworkers have contacted me. So now I get to talk about what I know and what I get to hold on to. And I'm being told allegedly that you were fired from Irving ISD for putting your hands on another student and their parents. So you're a very aggressive man. From what I witnessed in the courtroom, your vein was bulging out of your neck. I could sense the rage and the anger, but you're projecting. Because if you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at yourself. Jeff Metcalf, you have a history of putting your hands on your ex-wife. You have a record that's sealed of you doing things that you should not have done. You're a very physical man, according to your background, allegedly. Austin mimicked the leadership of his father and his coach. His coach is a linebacker coach. That's a lot of physicality. When you grow up seeing your father hit to get his way, wait a minute, because I'm going to piss some of you off. Your kids do as you do, not as you say. So if the way you run your house, you like to whoop a little ass every now and then to keep everybody in line. Don't be shocked when your kids step out in public and decide I'm going to just whoop a little ass to get what I want. That's what dad does. That's what Coach Starr does. I'm going to whoop a little ass. I'm going to beat your bitch ass. You going to get up out of here. They do as you do, not as you say. You failed your sons by teaching them how to whoop ass and not how to assess their strength and properly use it and self-regulate. You failed your sons when they allegedly witnessed you whooping a little ass when it comes to your ex-wife. And as a result, they in turn had to whoop a little ass to get you up off their mother. You said that Austin dislocated, allegedly, your rotator cuff. You see what I'm saying? Violence beget violence. So they see you whoop ass, and they whooped your ass. Which would lead me to believe a little ass whooping was normal for the boys. Them whooping ass is just normal. That's what they do, according to your history. And the men around them, the Metcalf boys were surrounded by their father and a coach that believe in ass whooping. So the leadership that Austin Metcalf, in my opinion, that day demonstrated was that of his father and that of his coach. In my opinion, that's why he didn't go get another coach. He's just mimicking what he's seen all these years, period. You failed your son. You didn't teach your son how to regulate his strength, his emotion. Neither one of them. You didn't teach them, hey, listen, when you're stronger, bigger, badder, tougher, some kids may fear you. See, my grandmother always told me a scary person will kill you. My grandmother used to always say that a person who's afraid of you will kill you. Because they're scared. You have to teach your kids when you're strong and you're mighty and you're big. That's good for sport, but that could be very intimidating if used in the wrong way. So sometimes you're going to have to take that L and go get a teacher, coach, because you will be perceived as the aggressor just based on your physical appearance, your temper. But see, a lot of you don't parent anymore. You don't parent anymore. You're scared of your kids. You don't sit them down and talk to them. You don't tell them, hold on, keep your damn hands to yourself. I talk to mine. I say, you can't whoop everybody. I don't care how big and bad you think you are. You can't whoop everybody. You're not going to win every fight. If you got to leave, leave. You got to walk away, walk away. It was not just the responsibility, in my opinion, of Karmelo Anthony to walk away and stand down that day. It was the responsibility of Austin and Hunter and the other linebackers to stand down. He didn't hit anybody. He didn't touch anybody. According to y'all, it stopped raining. You just didn't want them there. After y'all start shit talking about a football, they were going back and forth too about football. That's another thing. I don't know why the defense didn't introduce it in record. They were arguing about football. Karmelo told them they suck. Y'all suck ass. You bad. You all of that. Then it escalated. Teach your kids about having a Judas at the table. In my opinion, Eddie was a Judas. Eddie could have de-escalated. And like Judas, he did not. No, like Peter. I take that back. Eddie was not a Judas. He was a Peter. Like Peter denied Christ thrice, Eddie denied Karmelo under that tent, denied knowing him, didn't step in, egged it on, instigated it, whipped out the phone to record it, only to deny having a video. It's alleged that you did videotape it and you deleted it, allegedly. And I'm saying allegedly because I wasn't there and it's my opinion. You instigated them to fight. And you denied Karmelo like Peter denied Jesus. And when asked on the stand, how come you didn't step up and say, I know him, he's here, I called him? You said, I didn't feel like I needed to. Oh, Eddie. Eddie. You too hold a responsibility for what happened. There was one kid that told the truth. And to the parents of that kid, I want to tell you, you did a good job. And for what he wasn't comfortable telling, he said, I don't recall. Why would those kids say, I don't recall? Why would those kids lie? I'll tell you why. Most of them were 15 at the time. They're 16 now. They still have 2 more years in that county, 2 more years left at that school. I call that a rock and a hard place. 15 when it happened, scheduled to graduate with class of 2028. That's caught between a rock and a hard place. Who wants to be ostracized? Who wants to be roughed up? Who wants to be looked at as the bad guy? I still got to do 2 more years here. I don't recall. But to the kid that did the best he can and the best that he could, it was his first year. It was his first track meet. He played soccer. that testified under oath. Not only did Eddie know Karmelo, Eddie asked him to switch seats with him so he can sit next to Karmelo. And Karmelo was the one that told him, do you mind if I sit here? Crazy weather, huh? Thank you. Thank you for telling the truth. Hunter Metcalf, after the incident, you did a news interview. I believe you did two interviews. You led the charge. You said that. And you said your brother steps in like he always does and runs to your defense, whether you are right or whether you are wrong. You were wrong that day. You testified that your brother ripped Karmelo's bag out of his hand. And you didn't show up to court to testify. The defense, I would have subpoenaed him. I would have. I have no idea why the defense acted like gummy worms in the courtroom. I kept saying, are you going to play ball? What we doing? For anybody that thinks your kid can whack the fuck out of somebody and knock them out of their seat or punch them in the shoulder and whoop on them, and that other kid has to sit there and be okay with it, you're failing your kids because you can't whoop everybody. And I think it's disgusting that both families' lives will forever be changed because parents aren't parenting anymore. I still don't know why Karmelo had a knife in his bag. I don't. The defense didn't offer any explanation. And I understand the law where they're saying he doesn't have to, defend himself. That's on the state burden of proof. But why would you allow that train to run away and talk about this narrative and you don't jump in and defend it as a defense? Why would you kick back and relax like you're on vacation on a 7-day cruise in Mexico and sit at that table like you're drinking pina coladas and Mai Tais? That didn't make any sense to me. You should have put him on the stand. If it came down to 35 years, fuck it. He can't mess it up. They're going to give it to him anyway. He may as well get up and defend himself. That's my opinion. That's my opinion. You said so he didn't have a public defender. Let me tell you what that's a myth. Initially, that day when Karmelo Anthony was taken into custody, you have to elect a public defender, right? When he was at the track meet, when they took him into custody and you take him into jail, he filled that out for a public defender, y'all. So that's what y'all are seeing, but he did not have a public defender. They're showing you an old record. When you go to jail, would you like a public defender to be assigned? Yes. Toby Shook is not a public defender. He's a former prosecutor. He's the one that defended Amber. What's Amber's last name? The white girl that shot the black guy in Dallas. She went into the wrong apartment. His name was Botham John, and she shot him. He was her defense attorney. These are not public defenders. That's where a bulk of that GoFundMe money went. Okay. You got to do your homework. This is easy stuff. You look it up. Is Mike Howard a public defender? No, he's not. He's a law professor. But anywho, is Toby Shook a public defender? These are easy things that you can clear up yourself. No, it was a knife. It was a 3.5-inch knife. You said, is it true that it wasn't just a knife? It was some type of pocket tool that had other stuff on it. No, it was a knife. They didn't show the knife in court. They showed a different knife, and the knife was shown by the state. It wasn't the knife used at the crime scene, but he had a 3.5-inch knife. Now, Mike Howard, I don't know where you also messed it up because you gave the impression during jury selections that Karmelo, I wonder if you got paid. Have you ever watched Scandal? Why would you say it's legal for a teen to carry a 5.5-inch knife? And everybody ran, including myself, with the phenomenon that Karmelo Anthony had this 5.5-inch knife in his bag when it was really 3.5 inches. And then you just barely touched on that. I keep saying, what are you doing? Because every day you get new details, you get new facts. But I take such good notes. I'm like, well, why would you introduce 5.5 when it's really 3? Who sent you? Who sent you? Ass off. Now, he did open up. He said, now, I want you to keep in mind during opening statements that most of these kids testifying are going to be testifying on the behalf of Austin Metcalf because Karmelo was under the memorial tent. Karmelo was new, y'all, to this school. He didn't have a lot of relationships yet. I do believe he came or transferred as a sophomore. So there's not a lot of people that can speak to or on his behalf, but I wouldn't care. Mike Howard, that's your job to ensure that your client has a fair trial. How come you didn't go searching high and low, even if you had to fly him in from New Orleans or Baton Rouge or put him on a plane? How come you did the bare minimum? How come his mother was his only witness? How come you didn't fight hard? Judge Roach is retiring. He's done. How come you didn't say, Your Honor, I need a moment? How come you folded? How come you didn't erect your spine and stand on business? They didn't call anybody as a character witness. They did not. Now, let's go to, thank you. Queen Brielle said, did Mike Howard preserve the record for appeal? I would have to see the motion. I haven't looked at the motion, to be honest with you. Potentially criminal. Thank you. A reasonable person would foresee that stabbing someone in the chest with a knife would lead to a serious injury or death. His intent can be inferred. Let me ask you that. We had a prosecutor that came. We had a live call in, and I think you stated that you were a prosecutor in Dallas. I believe that's what she said. And she talked about proportionality and somewhat the same line of thought as potentially criminal. And she said, listen, Karmelo Anthony committed murder. You know, you can't just stab someone because they're bigger than you. To which my question was, or because they hit you. And I said, if I'm a lady, if a man punches me in the shoulder or face, can I use a knife? She said, yes, you can. I said, why? She said, because he's bigger than you, stronger. And I said, so is this gender specific? Is it does this law apply in the case of Karmelo Anthony and Austin Metcalf? Or does it just apply if a man is beating the crap out of a woman? If a woman can pull a knife to get a man get a man off of her, I'm just asking, can a smaller boy who's 130 pounds use force to get a bigger boy off of him? Y'all talk about it in the chat. What are your thoughts? What does the law say? King Mikey said, is it true that Jeff Metcalf called him a watermelon felon in a recent interview? I have no idea. It's been I had to decompress. I have no idea. Mecca 1986, thank you for the $10 super sticker. You said, Queen, I'm friends with attorney Mike Campbell, who is now working on this appeal with Karmelo Anthony. His lawyer needs to be reported. He sat on evidence that could have helped Karmelo tremendously and didn't use. What evidence? I heard there is, let me tell you what I know. I know that the officer that went through Eddie's phone testified under oath he doesn't recall if there's a video of the altercation. Now, that doesn't mean there's not one, But I would like to point your attention that he did not want to perjure himself on the witness stand, because either it's one or it's not one. And typically, if there's not one and you know there's not one, you're going to say, no, it's not a video. I went through the phone. But if I don't recall, I just want to make sure I'm not lying as an officer of the law. Carolina's first. Let's see. Here we go. Was the foreman the same guy that stated he was a U.S. Army vet or active member when they were picking? I have no idea. I think that guy, let me see. Hold on. I got my notes. Let me see. I think he was, let me get my notes. So you're talking about the guy that said, I can follow instructions very well. I've served my country. My job is to protect the Constitution of this. I know who you're talking about. Give me 1 second. I'm going to look for that. I still have that note. No, that was juror number 50. What he said is, that was juror number 50. Let me see. He said, I understand. He said, I understand the law and I'm able to make decisions. The law calls for me to make decisions based on evidence. I'm a 20-year combat vet. I was a 20-year combat vet. And I took an oath to protect the Constitution of the United States of America. And I took one oath in my life and one vow. When he said that, everybody started laughing because obviously he's talking about his nagging wife, right? And they asked him, oh yeah, that was juror number 50. Now let's go. Let me go and see if juror number 50 was selected. I'll be able to tell you. Give me a couple of seconds. Hold on, y'all. So when we go to jury selections, hold on. Was juror number 50 selected? I'm trying to hurry. No. Juror number 50 was not selected. Here are the jury selections: number 5, number 11, 17. Write it down. I'll go slow. So if they ever come out to speak, you will know. Number 5, number 11, number 17, number 18, number 21, number 24, number 28, 38, 49, 53, 58, 66, number 69, 71, 75, 78, 79, 80. There was something special about juror number 24. Let me tell you. I have a note about juror number 24. Juror number 24, I circled their number. Why did I circle their number? Let me find it. Typically, when I circle a number, that means there's a different reference to them in my earlier notes. I may have to come back to it. Juror number 24, oh my God, is a white woman. I don't know which one. I got it. We couldn't see her, but during the jury selection, she said, I couldn't dare do it. I could not dare send him to jail. He made a mistake. I couldn't charge a kid. It would be hard for me to make a decision. Lord have mercy. That's what juror number 24 said. Okay. So I think, so there you go. That's all you got. All right, let's go to the other questions. We got this one. Lulu, thank you for the $10. This case has opened my eyes to the way the world sees us, not just how it was handled in the courtroom, but all the hate that has been said. Oh my God, absolutely disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. Was it an all-white jury? No, it was not an all-white jury. I didn't, no Hispanics. So it was, I gave you the makeup. Can somebody type the ratio in the chat? Because it was 8 women, 4 men, 5 white women, 3 white men, 2 Asian women, 1 Indian woman, 1, I believe to be darker hued man. I'm going to say Middle Eastern, Jewish, not Jewish, Turkish. I don't know the exact race. Mellow Wife, thank you for the $20 super stick. You said, why was the judge allowed to preside? He knew the family on a personal level. Let me clear up something. Those photographs that y'all are seeing going around is not the judge that worked this case. If you're talking about the photograph, that is not that judge. I want to clear that up. Thank you. That girl Bree says, Queen, your commentary and account from this trial was A1. Thank you for your hard work and dedication to bring us the facts. You know what? When I go to the next trial, I'm going to have to get something for my wrist for writing. If y'all have any idea what I can use, please send it to me. I gotta get something. Do you think Karmelo Anthony will get justice? No, I do not. I think they flopped. I can't really say Toby flopped. I'm not gonna blame Toby Shook. Mike Howard led the defense team. So Toby has to fall in line. Toby did what he could do. Forever Evolving Me, thank you for the $10. You said, did Eddie call him to the tent? That's what the witness testified. That's what one of Austin's friends testified under oath. A kid that attended Memorial High School who was under the tent that day. That was the witness that did not want to be there. I'm hearing Eddie's the cause of this. Yep. Uno 1728. Thank you. You said thank you for covering this case. Texas is not really a good place for Black people. Wait a minute now. I'm Texan. Well, I was born. This is Corey. There's some beautiful places in Texas. These small counties, you just gotta, this is Corey. Thank you for the $10. You said, excellent commentary, Queen Sheba. I pray they are appealing and demanding a change of venue. Thank you. This is disgusting and absolutely heartbreaking. Prayers to Karmelo. The defense failed him. I mean, did you show up? Did you want to be there? Did you know you were going to trial today? Prom King of Neo Soul. Thank you for the $5. Thank you for telling the truth always. Thank you, BMBR Music, for the $2 super chat. All right, Karma Girl, we appreciate you. BMBR says Asians and Arabs identify racially as white. Well, they look Asian and Arab to me. I mean, but I got you. Christine Smith, thank you for the $5 super. We appreciate you telling the truth always. Sassy Libra, Queen, you can tell in Metcalf voice he's aggressive and a woman beater. The father speak to Karmelo like he was an adult. Shameful. Call me darling, 500. Thank you for not being biased and giving it to us raw. We are just asking for fairness. I'm glad you were safe. Thank you. I told you I'm going to give you both sides. I'll give you both sides throughout the trial, and then at the end, I'll give my opinion. Is it true they gave scholarships to the witnesses? I'm not sure. I left towards the end. It was just a long day. Like after almost 20 hours of being there, I had to go, y'all. I felt lightheaded. I hadn't eaten. Well, I had my little kale salad delivered, but I was lightheaded and I was so scared I was going to pass out. I don't know if they gave scholarships to the witnesses. I'm not sure. I can't confirm or deny. Super 3701. Queen, is it true that Austin attacked or fought his father? Yep. Let me say allegedly. Allegedly. Because I wasn't in the house. I do know they have multiple calls of violence, domestic violence, where the minors in the house, in the home, are the offenders. But because they were juveniles, their records are sealed. But they've had multiple calls to their home where the juveniles were the offenders. Okay. Let's see what else y'all have. You said those kids who lied should be ashamed of themselves as well as their parents. Karmelo was mistreated, period, all the way around. His life has changed forever. Eddie. Let's see. Oh, you said they did. You said he had a whole year to prepare. Whoa. No, Karmelo had a different counsel. Can somebody Google for me? I think, well, you know what? You're right. I think yeah, you're right. Almost a year. You said it's on record that Jeff Metcalf went to prison for domestic violence. Now imagine that. That means you were in there. That's pretty. That means you did some damage if you went to prison. Did it say prison or jail? You did some damage if you went to prison. And once you impact your children like that, they carry that. See, the way you behave in a home and they see you beating beating, that you beat your way through life. You beat. That's what, and kids see that will mess with them. It does one or two things. It validates that, or it causes them to move away from that and not be attracted to violent individuals. It's almost like people who don't drink because their father was an alcoholic, or somebody who does drink because their father was an alcoholic. You get my drift? Thank you, Cricket. You said think great live. I will say this. There is like, and I held on to it when they say fair trial. Was it fair? Nah. I'm not talking about the jury. I'm just saying the logistics of it, the aesthetics of it. Judge Roach started off by leading with the unfairness. When you hand pick who you want to cover the trial, how is that fair? That's a dictatorship. That's not fair. What's fair is the people that qualify. Listen to me, this is how it works when it comes to media credentials. The judge doesn't decide who gets and who doesn't get media credentials. That's too close for comfort. That's a conflict of interest. You shouldn't have time for that. That goes to like an administrative building. That's a separate process outside of the court that's trying the defendant. Let me tell you how it works versus how it worked. These are just the administrators of a whole different building deal with that. If you qualify, you get press credentials, right? If you qualify. And then it's first come, first serve seats for the press. Then you have a first come, first serve line for the public. What does that mean? If you have your press credentials, whether you're TMZ, independent journalist, blogger, YouTube, or whatever, you get your credentials. When you have them, if they have 20 seats for the media, first come, first serve, whoever's in line first. And then the public, let's say they have 22 seats, first come, first serve. That's how it typically works. That's not how it worked. The judge handpicked. That's not fair trial for whatever reason. And the judge has been sanctioned before by the bar because a trial that was not televised, that was supposed to be private, it's alleged that his wife is an author. He allowed her to sit in and take notes, and she wrote a book on these proceedings that nobody else got to cover. And because of that, he was reported to the bar before, and he was sanctioned and received a fine and had to pay a fine. You said it's not crazy, it's not alleged. I don't know. I don't follow those people. I cover these you see what I'm saying? I don't go in places or spaces that don't make me feel good. So maybe it is. I don't listen to crazy people. And what I mean, people that have the audacity to think that they're better than somebody because of the color of your skin, when we all go to the same place, 6 feet under, when we take our last breath. So I don't play in those spaces because I'm not backing down for nobody, verbally or anybody, if you disrespect me. So in order for me to maintain who I am and keep my spine erect, I just don't play with those kind of people, and they better not come and play with me. You stay on your side of the fence, I'll stay on mine. Teresa Wright, thank you. Said, Queen, I thought the jurors were supposed to be made up of Karmelo. Listen. What does that mean? Your peers. Does it say your peers are the color of your skin? That's why you got to understand the letter of the law. I don't know. You can look it up real quick. BMBR Music says Asians and Arabs identify. I heard you. I got you. Do you think so that's another thing. Do you think the unedited, I don't know why the defense didn't, I don't know why they didn't subpoena a forensic expert to extract the cloud There's no such thing as deleting, by the way. I found that out by a forensic expert that testified in the federal case of the New York for the Southern District of New York versus Sean Combs. And everything that Diddy thought he deleted, it went to a cloud. They extracted it, and that's how we got videos and stuff like that. I have no idea why the defense did not go into Eddie's cloud and pay a forensic expert to see if there was a video and to extract it and put it back together. Because once you delete something, the file can become corrupt. So there's going to be a little bit of quality that's going to be compromised and things like that. And sometimes you're going to have the timing that's off as they go back to put it together, right? I don't know why they didn't spend the money or allocate the resources to subpoena that. It's almost like they just sat back and enjoyed the flight. Let's go to, okay. The evidence with several kids reported them for bullying, called a cheerleader a fat B. It's too late now. I don't need the documents. You know what I mean? You may want to, I can't really do anything with them. Did the defense humanize Karmelo with his life? But they attempted to. It was a horrible attempt. Horrible. And I'm giving you the truth. Horrible. Oh, he's from Baton Rouge. His mother quit her job as a nurse to be this great stay-at-home mom. He didn't really, if I can't remember it, and he almost whispered it. At one point, he was talking so low, the judge had to put a microphone on him. Horrible. That's it. That's all. And I'm telling the truth. Like, that's my opinion. Well, that's my opinion. Nothing memorable. He didn't talk about his personality. He didn't talk about how giddy he was, how loving and just a fun little kid and nothing. He didn't personalize Karmelo to me. And if I can I be honest with y'all? I didn't like the way he interviewed the Black athletes. And notice I said interviewed as opposed to direct. When he called his own witnesses, I sat there. And I was like, what the hell are you doing? This feels like a job interview. Why are you attempting to qualify them as Black students to prove to the jury that they're worthy of being heard? They're worthy of their testimony. Why are you trying to qualify? Why are you asking them? So do you plan on doing something after you graduate? Well, tell us a little bit about your GPA. And get to the point like you did with the other kids. I felt very uncomfortable. Where am I going with this? There was a bias, even from the defense. And I'm not talking about Toby. Mike, you have a subconscious bias, and it came out in the way that you directed your questions at your own witnesses that you called to the stand. You spent 20 minutes trying to sell them to the jury. Who gives a damn? Get to the point. And at one point I wrote, it took him 20 minutes to land this plane, only to get to the point of what? Let me pull out my damn notes. Hold on. Let me see what he said that made me mad. And he took him 20 minutes. I wrote, he wasted 20 minutes only to get to the point that Centennial did not have a tent that morning. If I was a parent, I would have been like, don't call my son back in here to talk about his damn GPA 20 minutes and what college he going to and what football team. Don't do that. Don't shuck and jive with my child. Just to ask him at the end, did Centennial have a tent? No, sir. Okay, Your Honor, no further questions. Mike, I would listen. Listen. Does Centennial have a tent? It took you all day to get there. That's all. I guess it was embarrassing. I don't know any other word. It says, Queen, you no, I could not have. I could write notes for them and help them out and help them with questions, but they weren't aggressive enough to me. Nuck if you buck. Typically with defense, even with Brian Steele, and I've witnessed Mark Agnifilo in action, they all had a little bit of razzle dazzle, a little pep in their step. They put on a show. No show. Let me see. What else do we have? You say, gosh, both of them were suspended. So let me give you, somebody say, you lied. Lie for what? This ain't my first. It may be your superhero's first time covering. Lie for what? I don't know these people. He was suspended from the track team, both of them. And according to Coach Starr, I didn't need him near as he was talking about Austin. Let me read it to you. Hold on. Where's Coach Starr? I think he was the first witness. No, it wasn't. Mike Porter was the first witness. And then we go Coach Starr. Give me 1 second. Rob Starr. All right. Now, Coach Starr had to be real back in. He was saying a lot that could have. I don't understand why the defense didn't go ham on him. He gave too many details. It's almost like the state had a hard time reeling him in. I would have capitalized off of that as a defendant. I mean, as a defense team. Okay. Because one of the things he said is, I believe, my personal belief is, Coach Starr, you operate in extremes because you started off talking and you explained that the tent industry is $1 million industry. And you followed up and said, well, I don't want to exaggerate. What does $1 million industry have to do with a death at a track meet? So my personal opinion is you operate in extremes. And you said a tent should always have a coach. You should always have a coach under the tent at all times. Polarized statements, right? Because if that's the case, you didn't do that day. And even though you were hosting the district meet, according to you, you had to host it, you still failed to have a coach under the tent. And that's when the state interrupted and said, whoa. Because now they're like, oh, crap, this guy's about to shoot himself in the foot. They interrupted and said, whoa, hold on. We're about to go there. Don't get ahead of us. I know you're talking about the tent. Why don't you tell us about having a coach in proximity to the tent? You failed your own student that day. That's why I would sue you. I would sue the school district. People are talking about GoFundMe's. Oh, yeah. Frisco ISD would be up next with a multi-million-dollar lawsuit. I would sue the pants off of you if I were both sides of the family, period. Because you didn't have a coach under the tent. And I would take these transcripts and I would use Coach Starr's words against him. And you said, a tent should always have a coach. And then you sent a text that day to Austin. And you said, hold on. I need you to hold this down. I need you to hold this down. And he said, gotcha, coach. That's what your text said. You would be liable if I were a parent. I wouldn't give a damn about no relationship my kid has with you. I would file a civil suit for negligence against the school district. As a head coach, there's supposed to be a coach underneath that could have been prevented that day. Who thinks it's okay for a kid to act as if they're a coach? I don't. But you were not specific in your instructions. You left it up for interpretation. And as a result of your instruction, someone lost their life. Let me go back. Hold on. Let me go back to your text because I wrote it down. You said, oh, here it is. They said, can you tell us who was asking these questions? The state. Star. Okay, I believe this is the state. They say, can you tell us about the previous track meet prior to this one on April 2nd, 2025? Were you upset with Austin Metcalf? Yes, I was. This is the coach. Why were you upset with Austin? Because he left early to go fishing. Did you threaten to kick him off the team? I kicked him off the team. He had a crappy season. I kicked him off the team. He conjured up a text and he asked Coach Bass to send the text to the throwers, which included Austin Metcalf and Hunter Metcalf. And his words were, Austin wasn't supposed to be there. I kicked him off. I didn't need him, but I allowed him to come back because Austin wanted to prove himself. Then they start to introduce text into evidence. Coach Bass texted Coach Starr that says, can you tell Austin to put his black shorts on? Because Austin was out of uniform, like a previous, Austin wouldn't listen to the female coach or whatever, right? So she had to get Coach Bass, previous track meet or whatever, to instruct Austin to comply with putting his uniform on. And then the coach sent a text to Austin about being selfish, not a team player. He says, turn your stuff in on Monday. I'm taking Ramir and Noah to district. Okay. He called them selfish. He said, you only care about yourselves. I'm tired of it. You and Hunter left, or whoever, to go fishing, and you only care about yourself, and you're not a team player, paraphrasing, and you don't stay, and you don't care about supporting the other athletes. So turn your stuff in on Monday. I'm taking Ramir and Noah to district. This is what happened. I'm just telling you the testimony. If you don't want to hear it, I just want to remind you, this is an adult conversation. And then they said 2 weeks later, this is on cross-examination. 2 weeks later, Coach Starr, you went to the police, and then you tried to tell the police that Karmelo Anthony should not have been under your tent because it wasn't raining, correct? He said correct. But then the witness after him testified that it was raining. Her name was Tiffany Whitaker. She's the lead athletic trainer. She's been a trainer at Memorial since 2018. She contradicted Coach Starr's testimony. She said it was normal for the kids to visit the tents and say hello. But they typically ask the kids, don't leave your stuff here because we're not responsible. We don't like them to stow their stuff under our tents if they're not a part of the team. She said, but yeah, it's normal for them to come and say hi. We just don't let them park under the tent for longer than 10 minutes. Park means you're just going to be here all day. They asked her, Tiffany, was there weather? She said, yes, it was raining on and off. Did you know that it was going to rain? She said, yeah. We were notified, meaning her and Coach Starr and the entire athletic team of coaches and trainers. We were notified. How were you notified? Oh, the athletic director gave us instruction. And it was very detailed that if it starts to rain, to pack the kids up and send them to the bus. Coach Starr lied under oath. Where am I going with this? He lied under oath because when he was asked if Austin was over 200 pounds, he lied. You are a linebacker coach. Your job is to tell the truth. You lie. You're in a leadership position. You said, hold on. Get my notes. Okay, they asked you how much did Austin weigh? And was he over 200 pounds? You said no. That was a lie. And you know how much he weighs. They said, do you coach the linebackers? Yes, I do. Linebackers are typically real big boys, right? Yes. How much did Austin weigh? I can't tell you that. That's exactly what he said. I can't tell you that. Would you say at least over 200 pounds? Nope. Because he played at 195 pounds. But I do know he wanted to bulk up. So was it over 200 pounds? I'm not sure. But he definitely gained weight. So probably over 200? Probably. Okay. And the medical examiner testified that at the time of death, Austin Metcalf stood 6'1" and 213 pounds. You knew how much your athletes weigh. You knew. Why would you lie? Because you wanted to create or decrease the proportionality. You wanted to make it seem like there wasn't that much of a size difference. So you lied under oath and put Austin in 100-pound category as opposed to his proper weight class. So where am I going with this? It's important for everybody to tell the truth. He lied. He's a coach, a head coach, and he lied about the weight of his athlete. You don't have to. Austin is not coming back. You can tell the truth. You did not help in that moment. You bad. You ass. Did you need Austin? This is what the defense said. Did you need Austin to quote unquote hold it down? Yes. So you asked him to hold it down with no other instruction. Correct. Now, you wouldn't want Austin using physical force, would you? No. Should students go get adults? Yes. The defense, now I understand where they were going with this. I didn't at first. They didn't do a good job of staying on the point because when he said you wanted Austin to hold it down, but you didn't give him any other instruction, they should have drilled down and said, do you not think that's dangerous? So Austin had to make a decision in that moment. And could it have been that him touching Karmelo was more about pleasing you and trying to make you happy and proving to you that he could follow in your footsteps? See, I would have hammered down on that. Would that be negligent? Do you feel your instructions were clear? Did you anticipate that he would physically attempt to remove somebody? That he would introduce a linebacker move? Has he ever been violent before? Were you shocked to hear that he was in a fight? See, the defense did not do enough because you got him. His instructions were vague. I need you to hold this down. No other instructions were provided. So you left Austin out there to determine and make adult decisions as a kid, correct? Now you say, this is what I would have said, because they said, you wouldn't want Austin using physical force. He said, no, I would. But he did, correct? Yes. All right. Is that in alignment with Frisco ISD culture? There was a lot of ways the defense could have worked that thing, and they didn't. And then he said, should students go get adults? Yes, they should. Is that what Carmelo Anthony was doing when you hopped over the fence and got aggressive with him? Was he going to get a coach? See, they could have, listen, they didn't. They left it alone. Who sent you? And then they said, you want adults around because kids have hormones. I didn't understand that. Coach Starr, a lot of your testimony as a woman, it left me scratching my head because you were more concerned about kids having hormones and girls and boys being under the tent. And I really didn't understand where you were going with it. You didn't talk about testosterone. You kept emphasizing hormones. You said, yeah, we typically like to have adults under the tent because kids have a lot of hormones. You know, the girls and the boys are under the tent. Where are you going with this, sir? These were boys acting stupid under the tent. Coach Rob Starr that day attempted to get violent, allegedly, with Carmelo Anthony when he jumped that fence, that other coaches had to intervene. Bigger coaches, because he was not being demonstrative of what leadership is. And that's why I said, in my opinion, I believe that Austin Metcalf was mimicking your leadership. Because if your leadership is to hop a fence, to hold it down, and to attempt to physically go at another student, where other bigger coaches from other schools have to tell you to get the hell out of here, you need to leave right now because you're being aggressive. Yeah. Kids do what we do, not what we say. And then because you jumped the fence and attempted to go after Carmelo, Eddie jumped the fence and attempted to go. He followed in your footsteps, according to testimony, saying, I'm going to kill him. I'm going to kill him. He had to be restrained. Oh, that's what Coach Hooper testified to under oath. He didn't know Eddie. You jumped the fence. Eddie testified he had jumped the fence. But the coaches from other schools, which was neither Memorial or Centennial, testified you were aggressive and your athletes followed in your footsteps, holding it down. Oh, he chased them. They had to physically restrain him because his exact words, according to Coach Hooper, I'm going to kill him. And Coach Hooper said, son, we cannot lose 2 lives out here today. I can't let you do that. Now, I can't let you do that. He had to physically, they had to lay on top of Eddie until other men were able to come and subdue him and restrain him. Because Eddie followed in his coach's footsteps. I understand that football is a very, very physical sport. And the boys get real physical. And there's a lot of testosterone. But I want to use the words of the state in their closing argument. I'm asking you to look at the mindset of the coaches and the boys under that tent. What is the mindset where somebody could think they could whack you so hard to knock you out of your seat? What is the mind? See, they cover Carmelo's mindset. I went over that for those of you that, well, why come you're not talking about Carmelo? We covered it. I told you what they said. He's a cold-blooded killer, according to the prosecutor. Look at his mindset. He knew he would win. He had a knife. It was hidden in a bed. What does that mindset say? It's intentional. But what does the mindset say before we got there? See, we're talking about how we ended. How did we start? What was the mindset of delivering a blow so hard that, sure, Classmates say you knocked him out of his seat. That's all I'm saying. So if we're looking at mindset, we have to look at the mindset on both sides of the fence. And the defense failed to capitalize on that argument. And the type of mindset that Frisco instills in their athletes, the type of leadership that encourages holding it down. That's all I'm saying. Hold it down. You should never put a kid in a position to hold it down. Ever. Ever put a kid in a position to hold it down. Just like those of you at home, when parents are arguing, when parents disagree, what they say, don't talk bad about the other parent in front of they're just a child. Frisco ISD failed that day. I do want to know why Karmelo had a knife in his bag. That's just my curiosity. Did something happen? Is like, do the parent, and this is just me thinking out loud, right? That question no one has answered. Thank you, Somali Queen. You said help to send Queen Sheba to the David trial in Los Angeles. Thank you, thank you, thank you. That's the one question that I do have. That I can't seem to find the answer to. The defense didn't answer that. And I know, Mike, I think you took a very, there's a video of you floating around. You don't want to be the type of defense attorney to piss off a judge. Piss him off. It's his last go around. Piss him off. Why are you playing nice when your job is to defend? Let me see if I can find that video. Give me 1 second. And then we're out of here. And then later what I'll do, hold on. Put it in the chat. Let me tell you who he needs. He needs Brian Steele. Get you some people that know the law and that can walk through the law. Moonwalk. I don't know what that defense team. I mean, I was there to see a good trial. I want to sit in the middle. I'm here. I'm a spectator. I want to see the state go at it. The state came to play ball. Make no mistake about it. Brilliant play. Stole the show. Have you ever watched a basketball game where the favorite team gets a good lead and then they stop running plays and it's like a free for all and they start dunking all over the other team? Now they're just having fun. It's free play. The coach is like, you know what? We got a 20-point lead, 30-point lead. You guys go have a good time. And then they start letting the bench players play, third string. That's what I felt. That's my opinion of what was happening. Now it's fun. It's a camaraderie. They were dancing all over the defense team in that courtroom. Sometimes they were just objecting just to have a good time. And we were laughing. And I said, I'll be damned. Brilliant strategy. SF Pretty says, thank you for the inside facts of the trial and your objective insight. Absolutely. Do we know if Melo's attorney could have requested the trial be Yeah. From what I received from a source is he said it's not going to matter. That's the information I was giving. That he told the family it's not going to matter. I'm going to just say allegedly. Desira, thank you for the 5-piece. She said, when they appeal, will they be allowed to move the trial to another county? I'm not sure. I don't know if they've asked for that. I'm not sure. What is it? The reparationist perspective. Thank you for the 10 piece. Why did the family pay for such lousy defense? I do believe, if what I'm being told is correct, Dominic referred them to Mike Howard. Can he? And the family said they were told to get white, go white, go white, go white. You could get white defense attorneys. You just picked the ones that have prosecuted the most blacks in the state of Texas. Go get you a Brian. Go get you some boys across state lines that know how to play ball. Get you a dream team. I was shocked when I walked in that courtroom and Karmelo only had 3 people for a case. Such a high profile case. I was expecting this to count at least 10, 15 people. You need researchers. What are we doing? I was shocked. I thought I was about to walk in there to a dream team. Thank you. The hello, 1118. Thank you for the 2 piece. She said, was the girlfriend? No, she was not called to confirm their relationship. I don't think it would have. No, she wasn't. Lulu, thank you. No defense effort was made on the behalf of Karmelo. It should have actually been a mistrial. They hired him. And did he really get shipped? Yes, he did. And I saw the vans. I saw the vans as I was leaving, the white vans coming to get him. Royal Bristonian, thank you for the 5 piece. You said, come on now, Queen. Thank you. Thank you. Hospice Adjust. Thank you for the 5 piece. I disagree with your opinion, but I have so much respect for your presentation style and have really enjoyed following you. New follower here. That's fine. That's okay, Just. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you for your donation to the channel. They're just opinions. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, the good thing is I give you what was presented in the courthouse from both sides, right? So you have that. Now, let me just say, I ain't going to remember every single word because I'm just writing to keep up. We don't have access to the transcripts, the full transcripts yet. But I feel like I did a hell of a job for shorthand and for a person that's having to rely on just pen and paper. Then we get into my opinion. And I most understand. I understand. But that's why people like coming here, because you're not expected to have to agree. It was a knife. The state never refuted that. They never said, hold up. I'm sorry. The defense, if it was not a knife, they didn't rebuttal it. They didn't correct it on the record. I told you Mike Howard started off his speech with jury selections stating that the law allows open carry of a 5.5-inch knife or smaller in the state of Texas, even if it's carried by a teenager. You got to take that up with the defense. He used the word knife. He didn't say a tool from Walmart. The defense used the word knife. The defense used the word 3.5-inch knife. I'm just telling you, I'm not fussing at you, but I'm just telling you what happened. And if it wasn't a knife, then they used the word knife, right? I got to tell you the truth now. Thank you. You said it was a folding knife. Y'all, it was a knife. The defense never said, hold on, wait a minute. It was not a knife. It was a knife. But the fact, this is what you need to focus on, is it's not against the law in Texas to carry it. It's not considered a criminal act to carry a knife, even if a teenager is carrying it, because it's not against the law, but it's against school policy. And the school could have suspended Karmelo, but they didn't. You know why? In my opinion, because they knew they were negligent at that stadium by not having, in my opinion, someone under that tent. Let me tell you something. Texas, probably most parents teach their kids how to shoot a gun at age 5. Carry knives, use weapons. They get the hunting and all of that. Kids are very familiar with weapons in Texas. But you get what I'm saying? So it's not unusual for a kid to have a pocket knife on them. It's almost like culture. Did anyone try to give CPR? Yes, yes, yes. They did administer life-saving techniques. You had the teachers, you had the athletic trainer, Tiffany Whitaker testified, and also chest compressions. That may have saved his life. No, it would not have saved his life. Let me tell you why. The medical examiner testified under oath there's only one way to potentially survive a wound like this. And what she said, a wound, she said, because of where Karmelo stabbed Austin. Hold on, let me go to my notes. Dr. Ventura, she's a chief medical examiner examiner in Collin County. She's been practicing for over 12 years, but she's been chief in that county for 2 years. She specializes in autonomic pathology. She performs autopsies. She has a Bachelor of Science from the University of Texas in Arlington. She received she went to med school in San Antonio, and she did a residency at Baylor College of Medicine in Dallas. What she testified to, there's only one way to survive or have the possibility of surviving this type of injury. You would already have to be on an operating table with your chest cut open. Somebody would have to stab you, and the surgeon would literally have to go to work in the next second of stitching or attempting to put your heart back together. The right ventricle. The knife penetrated the right ventricle of the heart and went through the heart wall. She said it was a gaping break in the lining of the fiber tissue, causing stress and tension of the skin to be pulled back, which is why you heard the witnesses testify to gaping hole in his chest, as opposed to slits that you would normally see from defensive wounds. That's when the cross-examination by the defense, they asked her, the knife did not enter the body horizontal or vertically, correct? Correct. It entered the body at a slight angle, correct? Yes. Was it slightly horizontal or slightly vertical? She said it was a tilt. Do you know how much force was used? Yes. Do you have a way to measure this type of force? No. Can you tell the jury the specific type of force? No. The knife in question, listen to me, this is the defense. They didn't say the tool. They said the knife in question was how long? She said 3.5 inches. These are questions and words and terms being used by the defense. I want you to have the facts. A knife was used, not a tool to put cleats in. Because if you're going to go out there and windmill, you need to know the facts, no matter what side of the fence you sit on, okay? How large was the wound? The wound was 2.5 inches. So the 1 inch smaller than a knife. It sounds like, according to the defense, Karmelo had the bag between his legs, and somehow the knife was in the bag between his legs. Now, the state demonstrated reaching in the bag and opening the knife, the folded knife. The defense should have objected to that or did something, because nobody saw him open the knife. No one testified, I saw Karmelo open the knife. That's subjective. No one testified to actually seeing the stab. They said it was almost like it was simultaneously. The striking from Austin to Austin falling back. The defense should have jumped all over that. Why would you just let them take the narrative? You got to defend. That's all. They just let the state tell it and paint the picture, and they did little, and they ran little to no interference. I'm giving you what I witnessed in the courtroom. I'm like, damn. Austin was over so they asked, they said, could this be right? They say, this is what the defense asked the medical examiner. Could it be correct that not a lot of force was used to stab Austin Metcalf while he stood over Karmelo Anthony? She said, that's correct, but there's a lot of possibilities that could be used. She says, I don't know. I wasn't there. They said, how did you? Oh, the state said, the state pointed out that the medical examiner classified this as a homicide. The defense said, can you tell us how deaths are listed in your medical report? She said, yeah, there's 5 different categories. There's natural, accidental, suicide, undetermined, and homicide. The defense said, thank you. They tiptoed around these people. And that's because they have relationships with these people, y'all. They go to dinner with these people, in my opinion, if not directly, indirectly. I think there are 6 degrees of separation. They tiptoed because what he was trying to say, and he should have just pounced on it. You classified it as a homicide because you had no other choice, but not necessarily because it was a homicide. He didn't. Why are you bringing it? Why don't assess it if you're not going to address it? Like, what are we doing? Why are we tiptoeing around it? Do you want to play? And that's it. He ended the question. And then the state said, hold on, let me get back in here. Typically, when you perform an autopsy and victims are stabbed to death, there's multiple wounds, right? Yes, that's what she said. But not in this case, because there was only one knife wound, right? Yes, because it only takes one stab to take a life, correct? Yes. And typically, when you see multiple knife wounds, it's because they are defensive wounds, correct? Correct. But Austin had one, right? Right. He said, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, it's because he didn't see it coming. And I was waiting for the defense to say, all right, you better get in there. Hello? Are you there? None of that. No pushback, nothing. And that's it. That's all I got today. That's all. I gave you the closing arguments, and then I gave you my opinion, my perspective. Now, here's the thing. For some of you that are new to social media, you don't really understand how this works. You attack the content. You attack the points. You don't attack the person. Got it? Whenever you go on social media and you decide that you want to verbally spar about the dialogue, not the person. No Motion, thank you for the 10-piece. We appreciate you. No Motion came back and said it wasn't a knife. Nope, it was a knife. It's listed as a knife. Teresa Wright, thank you for the $5. She said, thank you for covering this trial for us. Awesome job. Keep up the good work. Thank you. Queen Brielle, she said, did Mike Howard preserve? I'm not sure. No Motion 205. Thank you. The manufacturers labeled it. Who? What manufacturers? That was not introduced in court. None of that was presented in court. You could be right, but I'm just telling you, it was not presented in court. You must have, unless you have access to something we didn't see. What the defense presented and what the state presented was none of that. I'm not saying you're not right, but I'm saying if so, that's not what we heard. That's not what we saw. That was not what was demonstrated by the state, the prosecution. They opened up a knife. They showed a knife to the jury. And when the transcripts are released, you will see. It will corroborate everything I'm saying. Low Life Tempo, thank you for the 20-piece. She said, Queen, did I miss this? Was Karmelo Anthony the only student? Yep, from the other school under the 10th. Well, he's the only one they talked about. If so, did they ask him to leave? He's the only one that they talked about. He's the only one that was mentioned, being from underneath the tent. Was there others from underneath? Was there others under the tent from other schools? No one went on record about it. They just went on record about the culture of just track and how kids play and go visit and flirt and have fun. All right. You said I'm 5'7". My husband stands 6'3". Because of the height difference could have played a part. So Austin's wound was 19 inches from his head, standing at 6'1", according to the medical examiner. 19 inches from the top of his head. So if you measure 19 inches on your husband, you can get an approximate. You would probably do 16 from your husband because he's taller. As an attorney, here we go. Thank you. Influenced by life. You said, as an attorney, if you know you can't defend your client, to do your best, don't take the case. Why didn't the judge allow the jury to take notes? Because it's at his discretion if he allows it or not. I have no idea. Now, I'm going to say, I don't know if they were allowed to take notes or not, but I will say this. I did not see anyone taking notes. I did not see any juror taking notes. I could have missed it. I paid very close attention. I did not see it. Do you all find that odd? And I've gotten mixed narratives about, oh, in Texas, you can take notes. In Texas, you're not allowed to take notes. And there's just been different commentary on that in the chat going back and forth. There we go. See, somebody said they are not allowed to take notes in Texas. Really? And then somebody else came on and said, that's not true. I was a juror in Texas. We are allowed to take notes. So I hear, okay, Doll Baby. Let me see what Doll Baby is saying. Doll Baby is saying Karmelo Anthony was the only Black person under the tent. The racism wanted him out. Thank you. You said that this chat is amazing. We try. Oh, they're pretty smart over here. They can go toe to toe over here. And they know how to argue over here without being vile. Now they argue. Okay, what's not true? What's not true? You got to use full sentences. What's not true? Y'all may be arguing with each other. Let's go up. You say, I don't know why people think veterans are fair. Racism. Oh, you're trying to say you believe people assume just because somebody's a vet, they're going to be fair. Yes. Can you talk about the father coaching the witness on the stand? I went more into detail in my last video with the call-in, but I'll repeat it very briefly. One of the witnesses that declined initially to answer the phone calls of the defense team, he and his parents, I do believe his father works in that courthouse. Let me just say, allegedly. I know his father is friends with the state because the state said it on record. He and his father have a relationship, a rapport, right, of some sort. He said, did your dad tell you he knows me from the? He said, yes, sir. Okay. So there's a relationship established with that witness. I do believe that witness was subpoenaed. Okay. Now, that witness, when being asked questions by the defense, would look to his right before answering a question. This went on 20 to 30 minutes. At this point, initially I thought maybe, maybe there's a condition or something. But then I was like, no, I think he knows somebody in the jury. I began to try to connect the dots, couldn't figure out which juror. And then when I positioned my body to kind of lean back to see and get a better angle, that's when I saw Mr. Metcalf directing the witness on how to respond to the questions by head nods. And he would indicate yes by shaking his head yes. And when the answer was supposed to be no, he would shake his head left to right and no, as a no. That's what I witnessed. And also Law and Crime, their reporter witnessed because he was seated right behind Mr. Metcalf. So. And Mr. Metcalf is a real tall guy. That's it. Now, let me tell you what I think. I believe the jurors played. Have you ever? I was like, oh, they got played. Oh, I can't see myself sending anybody to jail. No, 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 no. I think the jurors played the long game. Is it what's the correct word, y'all? In the is it, I don't want to say the wrong word. VOIRE dire. Hold on. Give me 1 second. I got to show you this video and then I'm out of here for real. Hold on. Here we go. I got it. All right, here we go. Let me know when you can see my video screen, and then I will click play. Not my video, when you can see the video on the screen. Looks like we got it.
So what kind of lawyer do you want? Do you want an aggressive junkyard dog who's going to fight for you hard, or do you want somebody who has a reputation as, you know, easy to get along with? The answer might surprise you. While of course it's important to have somebody who fights for your rights and stands up for you, if they are that aggressive junkyard dog, the risk can be that they end up being obnoxious or offensive to judges, to prosecutors, and even to juries if your case goes to trial. And so having somebody who knows how to walk that balance, who knows how to stand up for your rights and fight for you, but knows how to do it at the right time and how to do it, that walk softly, carry a big stick mentality, that they have a good reputation. That makes all the difference in the world, in my opinion. You know, I have cultivated a reputation at the courthouses in which I work as somebody who fights for their clients. And if you go to trial, I'm going to give you a hard fought trial, but who's easy to work with, easy to get along with, and reasonable. That ends up benefiting my clients. It's not something where I'm intentionally, being something I'm not in order to get prosecutors to open up and talk to me. But my reputation as easy to work with ends up benefiting my clients. Prosecutors end up. So what?
I think you were more focused on your relationships and your reputation and your appearance and how you wanted to manage and cultivate your relationships after this trial. And I think because your image became priority and superseded Karmelo's defense, I think you failed your client. You talked about you and how you present. And sometimes you've got to be able to pivot and step up and play the game. You've got to be able to adjust and be nimble in real time. Don't nobody listen. And that's exactly how he presented in that courtroom. That's exactly because he told you he wants to get along with the judges and the state. He works in several, he's on to the next. And I think that's unfair to your clients, that you are more concerned about managing your own reputation than providing a kick-ass defense. Baby, if you got to jump on a table and do a backflip, you better do it to win. If you got to come up out of your coat and get arrested like Brian Steele did to win, you better do it. And y'all didn't see that when Brian Steele was removed from the courtroom? We're talking about defense. Don't nobody want no ant defending them, a mouse defending them. Who wants the poodle to go against a pit bull? That prosecution team were pit bulls. You was in there like a poodle with a nice haircut. What else do we have? That's all. I want to. I was going to play something, but I guess I better not be too controversial. Oh, one more, and then I'm out. I gotta go. I gotta go after this. One more. Here we go. To answer some of your questions. Oh, if it'll let me send it. Here we go. This is it. We're done after this.
Received a fair trial?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And we're going to keep fighting.
Mhm.
We will not stop fighting for justice for my son.
Mhm. And as parents, have you all struggled with guilt, asking yourselves, is there anything differently? I know, Kayla, you said you wish you had gone to that track meet. Is there anything that you both wish you could have done differently?
I wish I would have just been rebellious. I was told, don't talk to this person. Don't talk to this person. I feel like it was just a setup. Now, so they told us, go get white attorneys. Every black person I went to, white attorney. No white attorney, they set them up, pushed them. Hey, here you go. I mean, no objections. It was things smooth. So because as a father of me being who I am, I got to make sure she's straight. This mama, I got to make sure she's straight mentally because if
Did y'all catch the whole video? I see people saying play it, play it. I am playing it. Can you not? Let's continue. I'll come back.
she's not straight, my house ain't straight. I'm not straight. Then so because I got the kids to worry about. Got to make sure his mental health. I can't go back and forth with him right in there because his mental can handle it. The misunderstanding of what dad is trying to take. This ain't a daddy moment.
So do you believe your son received a fair trial?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. And we're going to keep fighting.
So I wish the interviewer would say I get it. It's a yes or no. But what aspect do you feel was not fair? Like, I want to know, and I'm not agreeing or disagreeing, but let's really, you got to get into those questions so people can really know and feel what you're thinking. What aspects? Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
We will not stop fighting for justice for my son.
Mm-hmm. And as parents, have you all struggled with guilt, asking yourselves, is there anything differently? I know, Kayla, you said you wish you had gone to that track meet. Is there anything that you both wish you could have done differently?
I wish I would have just been rebellious. I was told, don't talk to this person. Don't talk to this person. I feel like it was just a setup. Now, so they told us, go get white attorneys.
So who is this person? Who is he talking about? He said, I was told, don't talk to this person. Don't talk to this person. And this person told me to go get white attorneys. Who is he? Who? Say it. Tell me real quick. I got to get off. I know it's on the Breakfast Club, but they strike you. I'm not playing their stuff. They strike you when you use their stuff. They've struck me before, so I can't use their video. Influenced by Life. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Dominique said he didn't recommend Mike Howard on Nick at Night. Oh. Okay. Okay. There's conflicting reports floating out there. I was told off record that he did, allegedly. M. Jewel, you said, I'm new to the channel. Thank you for the detailed and well-explained information. During the trial, your strength and resilience were A1. Great commentary. Thank you. It's a lot of work because you have to pay attention. You have to take good notes. And yeah, you got to be locked in. Now, keep in mind, we can report what we want. I could have reported all things just about Karmelo and his defense team. I could have followed in the footsteps of everybody else. Let me just report one side. I gave you both sides. I gave you both sides. Oh, y'all, hold on. What? How do y'all know that? How do y'all know that? Are y'all guessing? I was told it was Dominique off record from a very reliable source that has no reason to misrepresent. But you're saying I'm starting to think he's a bold-faced lie. He was on a press run all day yesterday saying it wasn't him. Why would he? Let me just say this. There were people out there that pushed their own agendas, both white and black. And you got so far away from the families that everything you tweeted was about you. Everything you posted was about you. And you sucked at representing the Metcalf family. You sucked at advocating for the Metcalf family. You made your coverage all about you. And not only that, you're a bold-faced liar. And you know exactly who I'm talking about. If I were the Metcalf family or any other family, I would attach you to my, like, if I were a County Courthouse, I would not allow Sarah J. Fields to ever walk back in that courtroom. You made a spectacle out of this trial. You incited race. You didn't get out there and work hard for the Metcalfs. You made everything about you. You exaggerated. You watched. You had a better feel for other content creators who are strangers to that town that flew from all over the world. You did more watching and note taking on individuals than you did on making hard key points for the family and putting on a good face for the family. You did a horrible job. You were out of your league. And because of that, you created pandemonium and you race baited to cover up your deficiencies. Because you are a one-trick pony and I don't know you. So in order to cover your deficits, you pointed the attention to other people. And let me just say, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for putting your audience and sicking your dogs on me. I don't know you from Adam. But because you sent your people and rallied up the troops, I got paid a lot of money. You put me in algorithms I should have never been in. You exposed me and got me clicks and views that I've never gotten before on Twitter. I'm not a Twitter girl. I'm a YouTube girl. You got me hundreds and thousands of views. And I want to thank you. You spent more time wasting times that you took the attention away from Austin Metcalf and his family, and you place it on people that probably should not have been the central focus of your page. But I want to thank you. I don't know you from Adam. All I know is I woke up one day and people are saying, "Are you okay? Queen, are you okay? Are you okay?" And I want to thank you. I want to thank you. I want to thank you. Because only a dummy who's inexperienced would put another content creator on their page. Only an inexperienced fool who's not cut out for this will make the crucial mistake of putting a top runner on their page. Everybody knows that does this. You don't put nobody on your page because it's free promo.
I heard about you. I was waiting on you at the door.
You did for me on Twitter what I wasn't able to do for myself. I'm not a Twitter girl, but I am now. I want to thank you. You are one of the dumbest individuals ever. That's why I said if I were the Metcalfs or any other family, I would never call her to represent my family. Everybody that knows, you don't ever put somebody on your page. You are giving them free promo. And with that being said, that's all I got.
I don't know none of these niggas. The thing is, in life, that's how it go with me. I don't know nothing about nothing. So